Hello and welcome to Small Plates. This is Jessica Carvo in New York City, co-founder of the band Satellite Mode. I'm super happy to be this month's featured recording artist to kick off some Get Real career advice from our host, Wayne Martin of M3. The song that Wayne chose to open with this month is one that I wrote, recorded, and released as a solo artist called Nightfall. I am super excited to share this track with you. It's very near and dear to my heart. I'm proud of the recording and everyone who is involved in making it. I'm Jessica Carvo, you're listening to Small Plates, and this is Nightfall.
Pink, orange, yellow, round, soar through clouds without sound. Different worlds lie underneath, and I will love the one given to me. Mysteries tonight. Oh, nightfall. If it's all ending, let me keep on pretending. Whole hearts need no mending, and I'm feeling just right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wayne Martin, and I want to welcome you to Small Plates, podcast 102. Today's Small Plate is titled The Fan Span. Before we get into the meat of today's podcast, though, I want to thank Jessica Carvo here in New York for introducing Small Plates and sharing the Nora Jones-inspired Nightfall with us. Many thanks, Jess. So we're going to jump right into today's topic, and that is music fans, how to think like they think. This is a big, broad subject to try to distill down to bite-sized. So, can we first just acknowledge that the majority of career choices don't come with fans? Most professionals don't have to factor fan relationships and fan messaging into their work schedules. A landscape designer, for example, can have a fulfilling creative career, but I'm going to suggest that most landscape designers don't have what you would call fans. Sure, they have people who would recommend them, but at what point would that person be considered a fan? And then if they were a fan, what would their behavior look like? What is the difference between a happy customer and a fan? Well, here is that difference in a nutshell. Fame plus interactive experiences. A landscape designer, or maybe an industrial architect or a software designer, even a florist, they're all creative professionals. And they all work outside of the fan span because they aren't public figures. There's not likely an element of fame or an interactive experience combined with fame from people that are unfamiliar to them, who admire their work. A select few may achieve some level of notoriety, and that may bring fans, but if we make a sweeping, broad statement about creators like that, we can say they aren't regularly in the public eye. We should also note that professional athletes with tremendous fame have fans. But if they are competent and capable, if they do their jobs well, their careers actually don't require fans for them to get their paycheck and retain their employment for a long career. But yours might. Now, don't think it's lost on me that there are household names that are famous for being at the right place at the right time, or that they are famous for being famous, or that their life's work has nothing to do with the fact that they have fame. Okay? So we can tip our hat, we can acknowledge their fan span, but as a burgeoning artist, you're not there yet. I think it's overly ambitious to try to cover everything a performing artist or a visual artist might need to know about fans in one podcast. So today I'm going to be very specific instead. Today we will talk about fan messaging and what that means to the different kinds of fans you might have. Did you know you will have 3 different kinds of fans? If you are resilient, productive, consistent, and good, you will have fans of one kind or another the minute you get the very beginnings of local awareness or some regional awareness before that turns into national fame or global fame. There was once a music publicist named Howard Bloom who he oversaw public relations for some of the biggest names in music. Prince, Kiss, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, Billy Joel. I mean, the list is staggering. And I'm just throwing out a few names for reference. It's too long to list everyone. You'd know them all. But Howard Bloom once wrote this quote. He said, "I used to tell my superstars that you don't just owe your audience your songs. You owe them your life. Why? Because others find themselves through you. Others make you an icon, a symbol that stands for something special, for some essential aspect of themselves," end quote. Bloom got it. And he expressed it in such a dynamic way. I want to break that quote down for just a second. There are several things we can pull out of that quote. First, Bloom speaks to superstars being iconic. So, assuming we understand that fans are a result of audience, that suggestion is very much about fame, which is another very big subject we could talk about sometime on its own. But for now, let's just say you can't have fame without fans, and you can't have fans without creating and then cultivating an audience for your music or your writing or your painting or your films. Second, Bloom says that musicians owe their fans their songs and their lives. Their lives. Because there is some essential interconnection to you as an artist. Either they identify with you, which is what I think he was speaking to primarily, or your fans will want to emulate you, to be like you, because they view you as special. And then third, when he says that others find themselves through you as an artist, he really opens up a conversation about self-discovery that fans experience when an artist's expression impacts them. When what you do impacts them with something as simple as a feeling, or something as complex as a mood, or a state of mind, or an inspiration. In all instances, what Howard Bloom was referring to is what I call superfans going forward. And you might have heard that term before. It's bantered about a bit by others in different kinds of contexts. You'll find many different conversations on different categories of fans, but you're going to hear the superfan moniker a lot. And just for today's bite-sized strategy, I just want you to put that aside for a second and just keep it in context of what we're discussing. The distinct categories of fans that artists must understand exist. And then once you know how to identify them, you have to learn how to message or communicate with each kind. So does a teacher speak the same way to a kindergartner that a teacher would speak to a high school senior? They're both students. The teacher's in a position of power and influence, but they may tailor their choices, language. They may change their tone or the structure of sentences or the volume to approach one student very differently than the other. You see where we're headed here. We're going to use some imagery today. You and I will put all fans into one of three buckets, and we're going to name those buckets. And as you plan and execute your career vision, you can examine your own buckets and ensure that they are as full as they can be at all times. Today's strategy is ongoing. For as long as you choose to create fan development, fan management, it never stops. There's never a point in your career when any artist can say, you know, Wayne, I'm really not interested with fans at this point. Well, guess what? That's part of the job as a creative, to build your audience, to engage, and then re-engage your audience, to inspire them, to impact them, as we said. So do you think your only job as a musician was to write and perform and release music? When we talk about social media, we'll talk about how your expression is not about you. Did you think your only job as a painter was to create masterful paintings? No. Either you address the commercial or business side of your creations, or you find some partners who will. Sustainability, commercial success, they have very little to do with professional critics and everything to do with your everyman audience connecting with what you do and staying aware of what you do and spending money on what you do so that you can keep doing it. Now, the ultimate condition for any fan, as you will see for yourself after we finish, is to migrate into the superfan bucket and then to remain there indefinitely. So let's name our buckets and get started. The first bucket is called the casual fan. The casual fan bucket will always contain more of your fans than any other bucket. So let's visualize a bucket with the words casual fan on it. Now, next to that, let's visualize a second bucket. It's exactly like the first, so it's sitting to its right, and on it is the word fan. There's no descriptor, just the fan bucket. The third bucket is called the superfan bucket. It sits in line with the other two before it, and it has the words superfan on the outside. So let's describe these from left to right. And the one on the far left is casual fans. Who are these people? Well, let's say they know about you, but they have no real attachment to you. They may know one of your songs, or maybe they saw an indie film you were in once. They could know your face, but not know your name. Or they could know your name and have no idea what you look like. They could even just recognize your voice. They are aware of you. And for all intents and purposes, they like you. Their connection to you is casual. To them, it's not important. It's not required. And for you, well, you need to understand that their relationship with you is not really going to become anything without a lot of work on your part. And that's going to mean a lot of repetitive reminders that you exist flooding into their daily lives. From some sources you can control, some sources you can't control, and some you don't even know about. So how do casual fans behave? Well, being the smart-ass that I am, I'm going to say they behave casually. They may turn up your song if they hear it in a car or on a streaming platform, or they may attend your art opening if a friend invites them to tag along. They may be curious, but they're not invested. They are casually aware of you, and they have no internalized negative impressions about you. They only have ambivalent or positive vibes towards who you are as an artist. Either they have no opinion or a good opinion, but there's not much action. There's your casual fan. When you perform for an audience you've never before reached, chances are you'll create more casual fans during that performance than anyone else. And then your work begins. Your work is to convert them to fans. Let's talk about the very often overlooked art of messaging to the different categories of fans. Let's bring that up now. How would you speak to a casual fan? Would you speak to them more carefully than someone who was already a huge fan of your work? Would you change the kinds of photos or words that you use to draw them in further? It's a little like asking an acquaintance to take a leap of faith with you. You really can't force them to. You have to stimulate their curiosity and their interest. And for everyone, that's a different process, because every artist expresses themselves quite differently. That doesn't mean you can't have the same goal of messaging and engaging casual fans as someone who's very similar to you in their career. It is your unique fingerprint that will make casual fans become fans. So let's move to the right. Let's move to that bucket. And why do we want to move casual fans to the fan bucket as quickly as possible? Fans know who you are. They like you. They support you. How? Well, in a variety of ways, casual fans don't. Fans spending money on you or your art is a probability, not a question. It's just a matter of how much and how often, and that is actually a very wide spectrum. But no matter where on the spectrum, those fans are engaged. They want to hear from you. They want to know more. They are, in fact, waiting on you. Now, looking at your middle bucket, no matter where you are in your career, you will almost always have less fans filling up the middle bucket than you have casual fans in your first bucket. How do they get there? Well, fans can enter your career trajectory directly into the middle bucket if they already connect with you very, very easily. Or you can grab their hand and walk them over from the casual fan bucket with some messaging and with some intent. Either way, getting more middle bucket fans is where your career actually gets traction. This is the bucket, my friends, that holds most all of your financial rewards for creating. The fans buy your tickets. They buy your creations, your books. They follow you on social media, and they are likely to proselytize for you. In other words, they're going to do a huge part of your marketing work for you. Because as fans, they want to tell others about you. And because they have knowledge, they will say things that have weight and truth to them. And they will say those things to people that trust them. That is so valuable. That is something that no social media, no radio play, no opening slot on a tour or live gig that can do. Your fans encourage buy-in from others who are likely to be fans. Think about that. And then add the fact that they spend money. So there are the two biggest reasons that this is the moment when the rubber hits the road and you get real traction in your career, because this bucket is a shift in reaction to your career. This is engagement, this is a response, this is recruitment, and this is support. What might you say to a fan that you wouldn't say to a casual fan? Well, you might thank them more often. You might approach them more often. You might pitch them more often. You might even be a little bit more assertive than with a casual fan, because you can apply some real structure to this relationship. And that's what it is. A relationship. Fans become that relationship. And so now think of how you speak differently to an acquaintance versus a friend. Do you share different things? Do you speak more often? Of course you do. And if you really, really like this friend, you might try to cultivate their friendship into a best friend, which we will now look at. Because we're going to try to migrate fans out of the bucket in the middle to the one on the right. Only fans can become superfans. There's no direct access into the superfan bucket. But you need to understand something here. And that's that some fans aren't superfans for anyone. Don't take it personally when they make a choice, no matter what you do, to stay in the middle bucket. Just make sure that you don't lose them. Hold them tight. They are your business component. And if you don't take good care of this relationship, they could decide to become casual fans. They could move back to the first bucket, and that's the wrong direction. So to summarize, fans, the middle bucket, it's just a pit stop for some on their way to superfans, although we are happy if many fans decide to stay here too. You keep this bucket full by tailoring your interaction with people who have signed up for your email list, who've sent you private messages. Those faces that are regular faces at your shows, treat them like a friend, not an acquaintance. They are invested. They are the gateway to your sustainability and a career that you can keep. So once your career spans enough time to include a fairly significant body of work, you can begin to investigate the superfan bucket. These types of fans are unlikely if you've only been around for a year or two, but it's not impossible. Still, keep your expectations low that this bucket is going to become very full, very fast, without a lot of effort on your part. And I mean a lot. Superfans never miss out on any opportunity. Every ticket for every local show, and often the VIP options at a premium price, most every online purchase they can make imaginable. They are recruiters. They are excited. Most street team volunteers are superfans. They talk about you with other superfans, and they expect engagement with you and your team at the highest possible levels. There's really nothing out of the realm of possibility to ask a superfan to do if you're holding up your side of the relationship. Now let's talk messaging. We know how we might talk to an acquaintance in our lives, the casual fan. And we know how we should invest more time talking to the friends in our lives, the fans. But how do we speak to our best friend, the superfan? How do you connect with them? How often? What do you share with them that you don't share with others? There is an exclusivity here, and you can't deny that. Just like in your own circle of best friends is probably very, very small, so is the number of fans in your superfan bucket. Taking a step back now, how might you transition a fan to superfan status? And how might you keep a superfan where you want them instead of letting them become uninterested and backslide into the fan bucket? It takes effort. It takes communication. You want to employ some unique experiences and events because you'll likely have a team of professionals in your career by the time superfans are on the scene, and you can task them with helping you to create the environment where your superfans can thrive. So here's a challenging question. When someone says randomly, "I'm so obsessed with this song," is that a casual fan? Is that a fan? Is that a superfan? Can we even answer that question with just this one piece of information? Well, no. We can't take one behavior and classify a fan, because we need consistent behavior to show us trends and likelihoods. And without at least two events, this quote and then some other behavior, we can't establish consistency. And then without three events, we can't chart a trend. So someone in the bottom of a bucket could scream out that comment, and you need to learn how to respond, even if you don't know what bucket they're talking from. Chances are, if you respond with a question, that's going to give you more information and more insight, and then you'll know how to address them. I hope that our first conversation about the fan span has resonated with you, and that it will cause you to think about how you react to the very people who control your paycheck. This won't be our only time to discuss these kinds of ideas. There's so much to cover. And I'm sure I've left out a lot of salient points today, but it's just a start. It's just one quick, small bite. Before I go, I want to tell you about a book. I used it for many years when I was a professor of music marketing at New York University. I taught students from all over the world about marketing artists, marketing songs, and marketing recordings. The author of the book is David Baskerville, and the book is now in its 12th edition. It's called The Music Business Handbook and Career Guide. I'd like to give this book to artists no matter where they are in their career because it's like small plates. The chapters are mostly self-contained. If you need a quick study on music publishing before you take a meeting with someone, you can pick one or two chapters on licensing and publishing, hopefully learn the language and the terms. None of this is a deep, deep study, but some of it may be overwhelming the first time you read it. It's a great book, not as a sit-down read, but as a reference guide you can go back to as you need to. And I very often suggest that my clients pick one up themselves and have that on hand. Our email address for you, if you would like to submit topic ideas for the podcast, is smallplatesuggestionbox@gmail.com.
You've been listening to Small Plates, bite-sized career strategies for musicians, other creators, and their collaborators, hosted by music manager and veteran career strategist, R. Wayne Martin. Small Plates is a monthly subscription podcast produced by M3 New York City. Click subscribe to receive new Small Plates insights and strategies on the first Friday of each month, only on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.